Man, I don't even know where to start. Seriously, my head is a mess, and I really need to vent and maybe even get some advice. I don't know who to trust anymore, so here I am. I'm Pedro, 29 years old, and I live with my wife Clara, 28, in a small town called Miraflor. I always thought our life was pretty normal, you know? The whole perfect family thing. That's what everyone saw. Clara and I were a stable couple. Nothing seemed off, a pretty chill life, until the bomb dropped. And believe me, when the bomb dropped, it was ugly. I have a younger brother, Lucas. He's 25, and he's always been that impulsive guy, you know? The rebel baby who never thinks about the consequences. Since we were kids, he's always been the one getting into trouble. Me, on the other hand, I've always been the responsible one, the guy who tried to keep everything together, even being the protector of the family. But what happened? I never imagined it could happen in my life. One afternoon, I got a message from him. Pedro, I really need to talk to you. Let's meet at the steakhouse later, you gotta hear me out. Lucas asking to meet up wasn't that rare, but what he told me there, Jesus. He was clearly drunk, his face was red, and his eyes were watery. I could tell right away that he wasn't sober. Pedro, I need your help, he said, almost crying. I sat next to him, trying to stay calm. That's when he dropped the bomb. I slept with Clara. What? Time seemed to stop when I heard those words. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say. It was like the world flipped upside down. Then Lucas started telling me everything. One night he got drunk, Clara did too, and things just happened. He was feeling guilty, but also seemed like he didn't know how to deal with the whole situation. I need you to tell everyone I was at your place that night, he begged. Tell them I was with you watching UFC, that I didn't even leave the house. Please, Pedro, you're the only one who can help me. I took a deep breath, trying to control my anger and confusion. What he was asking me to do was something I couldn't do. It wasn't about protecting him anymore. I looked him in the eye and said, No, Lucas, I'm not lying for you. You have to face this. The lies will just make it worse. He freaked out. He couldn't believe what I was doing, said I wasn't loyal, that I'd always had his back, and now I was just leaving him hanging. I tried to explain, but he wouldn't listen. Lucas stormed out of the steakhouse, leaving me there with the feeling that everything had changed in a way that I couldn't go back from. What I didn't know was that that conversation, that simple no, would trigger something way bigger and way more painful. But I didn't know what was coming. That night, I tried to reach Clara. Texted, called, nothing. She was totally distant, like she was ignoring me. I knew she knew what happened, but I couldn't understand why she wouldn't talk to me. And the worst part? It was only just beginning. The next day, the story Lucas told me, the one I refused to cover up, turned into a monster. He started spreading a lie all over town, and it spread faster than I could have imagined. Lucas told everyone that I had tried to take advantage of Clara, that I did something wrong, that I was acting like she was drunk. That wasn't true. And I knew I had to do something to defend my honor, but at the same time, my heart was broken. My mom, the people closest to me, they all started believing Lucas without even hearing my side of the story. Clara, she wasn't talking to me. She wouldn't answer my calls, wouldn't reply to my texts. And I was alone, suddenly, in the middle of a war I didn't ask to be in. I found myself in a position where I was going to lose everything. My wife's trust, my dignity, my family. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't even know how to face my brother. What I did know was that his lie was spreading fast. And I had to act. But how do you act when your own family is against you? I didn't have answers to those questions. But one thing I knew for sure, I couldn't just let this happen. Not anymore. I honestly don't even know how to describe the feeling of waking up every day with that pit in my stomach. It's like I was living in some messed up nightmare where nothing made sense anymore. The whole town was buzzing with rumors, and I was right in the middle of it, trying to figure out how to fix everything. But the more I tried to clear my name, the worse things got. The worst part? I felt like I was losing everyone, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. Lucas was relentless. The guy had his story locked in tight and made sure to tell everyone who would listen. I mean, I was still reeling from the shock of what he'd done, but now I had to deal with the fallout of the lie he told. He told people that I had tried to take advantage of Clara while she was drunk. He painted me as the villain in this twisted narrative, and people ate it up. It didn't even matter that it was total nonsense. The way he told the story, it sounded so real. He had this way of twisting things, making it seem like I was the one who had messed up when, in reality, it was him who couldn't control his impulses. It was like the walls were closing in. Every time I went to the store or bumped into someone, I could feel their eyes on me, like they knew something I didn't. My own mom believed Lucas. She didn't even give me a chance to explain myself. When I tried to talk to her, she wouldn't listen. It was as if everything I said was falling on deaf ears. And Clara, well, she was just gone. She wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't even look at me. I tried calling, texting, but nothing. It was like I was invisible to her. The silence from her was the hardest thing to handle. I could see it in her eyes when we were in the same room. She was confused, hurt, and probably felt betrayed. And the worst part? I didn't know how to fix it. I kept telling myself that if I just kept proving my innocence, eventually she'd come around. But every time I tried to reach out, it just made things worse. I felt like I was in a fight I couldn't win. The more I fought to clear my name, the more people turned their backs on me. And the more I tried to show Clara the truth, the further she pushed me away. It's like she was trying to protect herself from the reality of what Lucas had done, and that meant shutting me out completely. Days turned into weeks, and I was losing hope. The pressure was unbearable. I could feel the weight of it in every conversation, every interaction. People would look at me like I was some kind of monster, and I couldn't make them understand. No matter how many times I said I wasn't guilty, no one seemed to care. I was drowning in my own words, and nothing was getting through. And then came the worst blow. Lucas started to make everything even worse. He didn't just stop at spreading the lie. No, he took it a step further. He began to stir the pot in ways I never thought possible. He started manipulating people in the family, planting seeds of doubt about me. It wasn't just about protecting himself anymore. He wanted to make sure that I was completely isolated, that no one would believe me. And it was working. I kept getting messages from random people in the town. Some of them were old friends, asking me if it was true. They'd say things like, "Is it true what Lucas said about you and Clara?" Or, "I can't believe you'd do something like that." It felt like I was living in a nightmare where I couldn't escape. Even when I tried to explain myself, they were already convinced. I was going insane. I had to do something to stop this, but what? The more I thought about it, the more desperate I became. What if I just let it go? What if I walked away from all of it? But deep down, I knew I couldn't do that. I had to fight, even if it meant going against my own blood. It felt like my life had become a battleground, and I was losing. Every day it seemed like a little piece of me was slipping away. I couldn't even look at my reflection in the mirror without wondering who I was anymore. Was I the guy who fought for the truth? Or was I just some guy who'd been dragged into a mess he didn't make? But even though everything felt like it was falling apart, one thing kept me going. Clara. Even though she wasn't talking to me, even though she believed the lies, I knew deep down that she didn't want to believe it. I could see it in the way she avoided me, the way her eyes would flicker for a second when we crossed paths. She was torn, and as much as I hated the distance between us, I knew I had to keep fighting for her, even if she didn't know it yet. And so, I kept pushing forward. The lies were everywhere, but I wasn't about to let them win. I couldn't let Lucas win. I just needed one more thing, the truth. If I could find it, maybe I could get Clara back. Maybe I could get my family back. But where would I even begin? I didn't know how much more of this I could take. It was like I was living in a constant state of panic, anxiety creeping up my spine every time my phone buzzed or I ran into someone from town. Every day was a battle, not just to clear my name, but to hold on to my sanity. Lucas had gotten to everyone. My friends, my family, the people in town. Everyone had bought into his story. And Clara? Well, she was still silent. It hurt. It hurt more than I could even explain, but I knew I couldn't stop. I couldn't just let this lie destroy everything. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I spent hours on end combing through every single message, every single post, and every interaction Lucas had on social media. I had to find something, anything, that would prove his lies. I was desperate, honestly. I needed to make it stop. If I could just find one shred of evidence to expose the truth, maybe Clara would believe me. Maybe my family would start to see through the bullshit. One night, after I'd just about given up, I found something. A receipt. It was from an Uber ride Lucas had taken the night he said he was at my house. My heart skipped a beat. This was it. This was the proof I needed. The timestamp on the receipt showed that Lucas had left the house before the time he said he'd been with me. He was lying, and now I had the evidence to back it up. But that wasn't all. I dug deeper and found security footage from the building where we both lived. The footage showed Lucas leaving the building at 9:30 p.m., the same time he claimed to have been at my place. He had made it all up, and now, I had the damn proof. I couldn't believe it. I had been searching for something solid to hold on to, and there it was, staring me in the face. But it wasn't over yet. I still had to confront him. And just when I thought things couldn't get crazier, Clara finally reached out to me. It was late one night, and I saw her name pop up on my phone. My heart started racing. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, and now, out of nowhere, she was texting me. "We need to talk." I immediately called her back. My hands were shaking. Clara, I swear to you, I never did what Lucas said. It's all lies. I can prove it. There was a long silence on the other end. When she finally spoke, her voice was shaky. I want to believe you, Pedro. But it's hard. So hard. Everything's been pointing at you and I don't know who to trust anymore. I need to see the proof. I could barely believe what I was hearing. She was finally starting to question everything. But the fact that she had doubts broke my heart all over again. I told her about the Uber receipt, the security footage, everything. I sent her the screenshots, the receipts, the timestamps, anything I could find. A few hours later, she called me again. This time, she was calmer. Pedro, I looked at everything. I don't know what to say. This isn't what I thought was happening. But Lucas, he's lying. You didn't do anything wrong. I was blind, and I'm so sorry. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest, but I knew things wouldn't just magically go back to normal. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild, and Clara's apology was just the first step. There was so much hurt between us, and I could feel it hanging in the air. Still, there was something about hearing her say that she believed me that gave me hope. I wasn't completely alone anymore. But Lucas, he was still out there, still causing chaos, still manipulating everyone. I knew the next step had to be to confront him. So the next day, I went to see him. I had the proof. I wasn't going to let him spin his web of lies anymore. I showed up at his apartment unannounced, and the look on his face when he saw me, surprised but not scared, told me everything I needed to know. He didn't even have the decency to feel guilty. I laid everything out on the table. The Uber receipt, the security footage, the social media posts. Every single piece of evidence I had collected was right there. This is it, Lucas. You've lied and you've ruined my life. You can't run from the truth anymore. For a second, he just stared at me, his face blank. Then, his mask cracked, and I saw it. The guilt. The realization that his lies were falling apart. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something, but he didn't. Instead, he just turned away, muttering, I didn't mean for it to go this far, Pedro. I didn't, but it was too late for apologies. The damage had been done. I'm done with you, Lucas, I said, my voice steady. You'll pay for this. And I meant it. I wasn't going to let him get away with destroying everything I cared about. I wasn't going to let him tear apart my marriage, my family, and my reputation just because he couldn't keep his demons in check. That night, I contacted a lawyer. I was going to sue for defamation. I wasn't going to let Lucas ruin my life without facing consequences. Claire and I were still a work in progress. There was no magic fix, but at least now she knew the truth. She believed me. I just had to prove to her that I was worth trusting again. The tension in the air was thick. I'd never been in a situation like this before, and I'm sure as hell I never wanted to be again. But now, with everything I'd been through and all the evidence I had, I knew there was no turning back. Lucas had gone too far, and it was time to end this. The day of the family dinner arrived. I had been preparing myself for it, steeling myself for what was coming. But honestly, nothing could have prepared me for what happened. I knew this dinner would be a turning point. Either everything would be fixed, or it would all fall apart. Either my family would finally see the truth, or they'd keep living in Lucas's lies. But I couldn't back down now. Not after everything that had happened. When I walked into the dining room, the faces of my family were unreadable. Clara was already there, sitting at the far end of the table, her face a mixture of hurt and uncertainty. She still hadn't fully forgiven me for what had happened between us, but I could see it in her eyes. She was finally starting to come around, starting to see that maybe she had been wrong. The people in my family, my mom, cousins, aunts, were all there too, but the atmosphere was tense. Nobody knew what was going to happen next. I sat down, but my mind was racing. My heart was pounding. I could hear my own breath in my ears as I mentally prepared myself to put everything on the line. And then, Lucas walked in. He looked just as smug as ever, like he thought he had everything under control. He took his seat across from me and gave me a look that made my blood boil. But this time, I wasn't intimidated. I wasn't going to back down. I need to clear the air, and I'm done with games, I said, my voice firm. Everyone looked at me, waiting for what was coming. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder with all the evidence, and started showing it to the family. The Uber receipts, the security footage, the timestamps, the messages between Lucas and his friends. Everything was laid out in black and white, and there was no denying it. I watched as my family's faces shifted, some of them looking shocked, others looking angry. The truth was right in front of them, and they couldn't deny it anymore. Lucas was silent, his face turning pale as he tried to come up with an excuse. That's not what happened, he muttered, but the panic in his voice was clear. Pedro's lying. He's just trying to ruin me. But no one was buying it anymore. My mom was the first to speak up, her voice shaky but resolute. Is this true, Lucas? Did you really do this? Did you lie about Pedro? I could see the guilt wash over his face as he tried to form words, but none came out. Finally, he broke down. Okay, I did it. I lied. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do, but I didn't want to hurt anyone. He looked at Clara, but she didn't respond. She just sat there, processing everything that had been revealed. I couldn't believe it. After everything he'd done, after everything he'd put me and the family through, Lucas was still trying to save face. But I didn't care anymore. The truth was out, and that's all that mattered. Clara stood up then, her face pale, and her eyes red from all the tears she'd been holding back. She looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Something like regret, something like hope. Pedro, I'm sorry, she said quietly. I've been so lost in everything Lucas said, but I see it now. I see the truth. My heart ached. I wanted to rush over to her, to hold her, but I knew it wasn't that simple. There was still so much to rebuild, so much hurt to heal. But hearing those words, seeing her finally believe in me again, it was the first step, the first real step in putting this nightmare behind us. Lucas, now exposed for the liar he was, sat there, defeated. The family was no longer on his side. His story had crumbled. And now the consequences of his actions were starting to hit home. The aftermath of the dinner was a blur. Some of my family, the ones who had supported Lucas blindly, started to distance themselves from him. They couldn't ignore the truth, no matter how hard it was to accept. It wasn't easy, but they came around. As for me, I had to figure out how to move forward, how to repair the damage that had been done to my relationship with Clara, how to rebuild trust that had been shattered. Lucas was hit with a defamation lawsuit, and the legal battle that followed was brutal. I wasn't going to let him get away with trying to destroy my life. He had to face the consequences of his actions, and I wasn't going to back down until I saw justice done. He ended up having to pay a significant sum in damages, but more than that, he lost the support of the people who once thought the world of him. As for Clara and me, well, we had a long road ahead. The road to healing wasn't going to be quick or easy, but after everything, I knew I had to be patient. I had to prove to her that I was still the man she married, the one who would always have her back, no matter what. And I knew that, even though our lives would never be the same, we had a chance to rebuild. Maybe, just maybe, the truth would set us free.